r/askreddit. What's the scariest shit you've seen with your own eyes? When I was 13, I was homesick with the flu. I was walking past one of the windows when I saw the mailman walking across the street. Out of nowhere, a car came and hit him. The driver got out of the car and started to stab the mailman repeatedly. He stopped and ran off down the street. I called my mom and told her what I saw, and she thought I was hallucinating. She told me to go lay down since I had a fever around 103. When she got home, she noticed that I was obviously rattled from what I saw. It turns out the guy lived right around the corner from us and was severely deranged. They found him later that day. He was committed and his family moved out of town. The mailman lived and was back delivering mail a few months later. Growing up, I had a friend named Adam. He was never able to come out dying the day, only right before all of us kids had to go home for the evening. Adam lived a few houses over, in a house with an overgrown yard. I met his parents once. They were very strange, didn't smile, and obviously didn't want me there. I remember Adam telling me that he was sick. That's why he couldn't play that much. He was a small boy, pale with dark hair. Eventually, Adam stopped showing up altogether, and I eventually moved on. Though I do remember going to his house a couple times to see if he could come play, and his dad just gave me this look before closing the door in my face. Later in life, I asked my sister if she remembered him. She doesn't, and according to my parents, that house was empty the entire time we lived there. I don't know who Adam was. I don't know why I so vividly remember him and his parents. As far as I can tell, he wasn't real, and yet I have perfect memories of him and his parents. When I was 7 or 8, I would have a reoccurring nightmare that one of my dolls came to life, played with me, and then would try to pull me into my closet with her. I'd follow her into the closet at first, but then she'd show me this little door at the back of the closet, and my heart would start to race. I don't know what it was about that door, but I knew something bad would happen if I went through it. I'd start to struggle and try to pull away, but the doll was too strong and would start pulling me through the door. At this point in the dream, I'd always wake up screaming. The worst part was I had night terrors, so sometimes I'd wake up standing next to my closet. Every night before bed, I'd make my parents make sure there wasn't a little door at the back of my closet. There never was. Anyway, I was talking to my mom the other day and this dream came up. I'm laughing about it and how ridiculously paranoid I was about dolls and that closet, but my mom gets really quiet. She tells me the creepy part of that dream wasn't the doll. It was the fact that there used to be a little door at the back of the closet, but when I was 1 year old, they remodeled the house and put a wall where the door used to be. There's no way I could have remembered that door, but years later, I kept dreaming about it. None of my friends believe this story, but I swear it's true. About 8 years ago now, I was taking a drive out to Kansas from the East Coast. I was with a friend and we were going out to see her grandparents. Once we were about 2 hours from the grandparents' house, my friend starts outlining standard operating procedures of seeing things in and around her family's home. She seemed a bit panicky when going over everything, but I managed to calm her down. I'm skeptical of everything and assured her that the things she had seen when she was a small child were just manufactured in her imagination. She insisted that the entire family had seen these things with the exception of her grandparents. 2 hours later, we arrive in Kansas and I'm ready to fall over because of the length of time the last leg of the trip took. We are welcomed and grandmother takes me to her back bedroom, and just as she about to close the door, she stops, says maybe you shouldn't stay in this room, and escorts me to another room. Okay, that was a little strange, but whatever. I'm tired. Fast forward to night number 2 at the grandparents' home. It's around 11 PM and my friend has crashed out on the couch watching TV. I'm in an adjacent bedroom from which I can see her laying on the couch. I nod off for the night and wake up to her old grey man that bared a resemblance to the grandfather but was not the grandfather, standing with his back to me in the doorway looking at my friend sleeping on the couch. I decided I was going to get up and confront the old grey man, and something slammed me back into the bed. I tried to get up several more times with the same result. Each time I was slammed back into the bed, a voice would repeat, "Put a seal on the door." Finally, I snapped to it's 3 AM and everything was normal. I must have been sleeping. It was a dream. No old grey man and my friend was fast asleep. So I start pacing around the room trying to decide how I feel about what had just happened. I glance over to my friend, her eyes are open and she says, "You seen it?" I say, "Get in the car. I can't be here right now." We spend the next 4 hours sitting in a Walmart parking lot talking about the history of her experiences in that house and comparing to my own. Okay, my nerves are not on fire anymore and we are heading back to the grandparents' home. We arrive and they are waiting for us inside. I tell them exactly what happened to me and I get, "Yeah, that's strange. We usually do seal our doors with a prayer at night, but with all the excitement we just must have forgotten. All the children have mentioned stories of things but we have never seen them. We are sorry you had to go through that. I'm really not sure what I seen or experienced that night, but when I tell people they get that look of skepticism. It's obvious they don't believe me. My conclusion is that the experience was indistinguishable from reality in the moment. I don't know what that means, but it's changed the way I look at things." So I live in this pretty suburban town in Canada. However, just about a kilometer behind us is a huge forest country that is completely backwards and super creepy at night. Anyway, there was a party in this backwards town one night, so me and the boys decided to go. They left before I did and the guy I was supposed to leave with ended up crashing there. My mom didn't want me to stay the night, so I called my sister and asked her to pick me up at the general store. So I left the house and it was about a 5-kilometer walk to the store. I got lost in the woods, and the shit I saw that night was absolutely terrifying. There was no noise in the world at all. Not even my footsteps made noise. Everything was dead silent. Oh yeah, and my phone was dead. But I'm not dumb. I knew the general store was east, so all I had to do was look for the North Star. This is where I started freaking out. I looked up in the sky and there was no stars. Nothing. This wasn't because of light pollution. It's a backwards town at 2 AM. So I just kept walking, starting to freak the hell out. After walking through the woods for about an hour, I came across a clearing, but I stopped in my tracks when I saw the guy like 10 feet in front of me. He was facing about 90. degrees away from me, and there was something with his face and body that was just wrong. It was like he was incomprehensible to me. I got a huge chill down my spine and just a sense of dread like nothing I'd ever felt. Keep in mind it was like 2 AM, so there was no reason for this guy to be here. I didn't want to stick around for any longer, so I turned right back and ran straight through the woods for as long as I could. Eventually I reached a dirt road and collapsed, and by some stupid luck which I should not have been blessed with, I saw my sister's car pull up to me with a cop behind her. At this point it was like 4 AM and they were searching for me for like 3 hours. I got in the car and cried until I got home. I've never been back to that town, nor do I have any plans to go back. Fuck that. This is going to get lost, but here it goes. I was probably about 7 or 8 years old. My room was at the end of the hallway with the stairs to the attic right outside my door. The way my bed was positioned, I could see the bottom of the stairs and clear down the hallway. Well, one night I flip over, and I see the legs of a woman sitting on the stairs. She wore a long dress and dress shoes. I covered my head with the blankets until I ended up falling asleep. A few years later, I'm playing Spider-Man 2 in the guest room on my GamerCube. I saw the shadow of a woman in a dress and a veil walking along the wall. Just as it disappeared, some toys from the toy box fell over. There was nothing that should have made a shadow like that. There was only one window, but it had a garbage bag over it because my dad slept there when he worked overnight. The bag blocked out the light. After I graduated high school, I moved out to Indiana. This all occurred in Pennsylvania. I met my wife there and we have a daughter. Well, last Thanksgiving, we came to visit my parents for the holiday. We slept in the guest room, and after the first night, my wife said she got a bit creeped out last night. When I asked why, she told me she woke up and thought she saw a black figure standing over me, but it disappeared after a few seconds. Remembering my childhood, I asked her what it looked like. She described exactly what I had seen as a child, a woman in an old long dress and a veil. I had never told my wife about the woman I saw growing up because I brushed it off as the imagination of a child. Now I'm not so sure. My brother always had terrible night terrors, awful for him and scary to witness. Slept on my parents' floor until he was 16. One night, I was asleep in bed. My room was closest to my parents, when suddenly, my cat, who was under the blankets with me, leapt up and hissed, utched and spat. I looked and saw what I thought was my brother, standing in white underpants in front of my mirror. Used to his terrors, I calmly told him to go back to bed, but then he turned to face me, and man, that thing was not my brother. Honestly, that thought, "That's not my brother," pounded through my head. It was so pale and seemed to grow until it was as tall as the room. It stared at me and its eyes were black, but huge. Really feel like I'm not doing it justice. Big, pale, scary. Cat had climbed on top of my bookshelf and continued to hiss. Screamed and snapped on the light. Nothing. Parents come. Nothing. Brother comes. In PJ's mind. Nothing. Never saw it again, and very happy to keep it that way. But 20 years later, hearing my bro telling his new GF about how he could never sleep when he was a kid cause the long skinny dude with white skin watched him all the time. Chills guys. Chills.